Have you ever experienced a moment when the familiar suddenly feels unfamiliar as though you're seeing it for the first time? Welcome to the intriguing world of Jamais Vu. This is a phenomenon that has left psychologists and neuroscientists scratching their heads for years. Today, we'll decode the science behind Jamais Vu, breaking it down into simple language and supported by various reports and studies. So let's embark on this journey to explore the captivating realm of the human mind. First, let's define what jamais vu is. Stemming from the French words meaning never seen, jamais vu describes a sense of eeriness and the observer's impression of seeing a situation for the first time, despite rationally knowing they have been in the situation before. It's the opposite of the well-known phenomenon déjà vu, which is the feeling of having already seen something that is actually new or unfamiliar. While déjà vu is a sense of familiarity in a new situation, jamais vu is a sense of unfamiliarity in a familiar situation. To illustrate, imagine looking at a common word, like house, and suddenly feeling like it's a completely foreign concept. That's jamais vu for you. Now let's dive into the psychological theories that explain jamais vu. These theories are an attempt to explain this mind-boggling phenomenon and offer us an insight into the complexities of our brains. The first theory we'll explore is the memory glitch theory. Picture your brain as a supercomputer, processing vast amounts of information each second. Now, just like any computer, your brain may experience occasional glitches or hiccups in its operations. These glitches can disrupt the recognition process, causing a momentary lapse where something familiar suddenly feels unfamiliar. This could be a word, a person, or even a place you've known your entire life. Moving on, we have the fatigue or stress theory. Our brains are incredibly resilient, but they are not immune to the effects of stress or fatigue. In fact, these conditions can significantly impact our cognitive functions. When we're tired or stressed, our brain's ability to process and recognize information can falter. This can lead to temporary lapses in memory and recognition, causing a jamais vu experience. So next time you forget where you've left your keys after a long, tiring day, you might be experiencing a touch of jamais vu. Lastly, we'll discuss the semantic satiation theory. This theory is all about repetition. When you repeat a word or phrase multiple times, your brain can start to perceive it as a meaningless string of sounds. This is because the constant repetition causes the brain to temporarily disconnect the word or phrase from its associated meaning. It's like when you say a word over and over until it starts to sound weird and loses its meaning. This can lead to a sense of unfamiliarity even with the most common words or phrases. The fascinating thing about these theories is that they all highlight how our brains process and interpret information. They show us that our perception of the world around us is not fixed, but is constantly being shaped and reshaped by our brains. So the next time you experience a jamais vu moment, remember that it's just your brain playing tricks on you. There's also the semantic satiation theory. It suggests that when you repeat a word or phrase multiple times, it can lose its meaning temporarily, leading to a feeling of unfamiliarity. Now let's explore the neurological basis of jamais vu. When we probe into the depths of our brain, we find a complex network of neurons, each buzzing with activity. It's within this intricate network that the phenomena of déjà vu and jamais vu take root. While déjà vu is often linked to the temporal lobes of the brain, our focus today, jamais vu, seems to engage other areas as well. It's a fascinating journey into the realm of the unknown, the unfamiliar, even amidst the most familiar of settings. Picture this. You're faced with a common object, a word, or a situation. Ordinarily your brain would swiftly identify it, drawing from a vast reservoir of memories and associations. But in the case of jamais vu, there's a hitch. The recognition process falters, and the familiar suddenly becomes alien. Neurologically speaking, what's happening here? Well, studies have shown that during these jamais vu experiences, there's unusual activity in areas of the brain responsible for memory and recognition. Specifically, the parahippocampal gyrus, a region involved in scene recognition, and the prefrontal cortex, which plays a role in decision-making and social behavior, show heightened activity. This deviation in brain activity is intriguing to say the least. It hints at the possibility that our brain's recognition and memory systems are more complex than we currently understand. After all, how can something so familiar suddenly seem so foreign? The brain, it seems, is a master of illusion, capable of transforming the mundane into the mysterious. And jamais vu is a prime example of this. It's a subtle reminder of the brain's ability to bewilder and amaze, to make us question our perception of the familiar and the known. As we delve further into the enigmatic world of Jamais Vu, we're likely to uncover more about the brain's intricate workings, its quirks and idiosyncrasies. And in doing so, we'll gain a deeper understanding of the human mind, of memory, and of the very nature of familiarity. This supports the idea that it's a genuine neurological phenomenon. But what about reports and studies, you might wonder? Well, the world of scientific research has not left Jamais Vu unexplored. A myriad of studies and experiments have attempted to understand and measure this intriguing phenomenon. One key study, for instance, was conducted by Dr. Chris Moulin from the University of Leeds. He and his team asked participants to write out the word door 30 times in 60 seconds. The results were fascinating. Many participants started to doubt if door was even a real word, experiencing a strong sense of Jamais Vu. In another experiment, neuroscientists used functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI, to study the brain activity of individuals experiencing Jamais Vu. They found that regions of the brain associated with memory and recognition were unusually active during these episodes, reinforcing the theory of Jamais Vu as a neurological phenomenon. Yet another study, this time from the domain of linguistics, employed the method of semantic satiation, which involves repeating a word until it temporarily loses its meaning. Participants reported strong feelings of unfamiliarity with the repeated word, further confirming the link between Jamais Vu and semantic satiation. These studies, conducted across different fields and using a variety of methods, all point to one conclusion. Jamais Vu is not just an odd feeling or a figment of the imagination. It is a real, measurable psychological occurrence. Their findings add weight to the idea that Jamais Vu is a real and measurable psychological occurrence. So, what are common triggers for Jamais Vu? One of the most common triggers is repetition. Repeating a word, phrase, or action over and over again can cause it to lose its familiar meaning, leading to that sensation of unfamiliarity. This phenomenon is also tied to the theory of semantic satiation we discussed earlier. It's as if the brain gets bored of the repeated information and decides to view it as something new and unexplored. Another common trigger is exposure to new environments. When we find ourselves in unfamiliar settings, our brain can sometimes misinterpret the information it receives, causing that feeling of Jamais Vu. This is not limited to physical environments. It can also happen in social or emotional environments that we aren't used to. Lastly, suddenly looking at familiar things from a new perspective can also trigger Jamais Vu. It's as if your brain is trying to rediscover the things it already knows. Also, exposure to new environments or suddenly looking at familiar things from a new perspective can trigger Jamais Vu. In conclusion, Jamais Vu is a captivating phenomenon rooted in both psychology and neurology. This enigmatic sensation, characterized by a sudden unfamiliarity with the familiar, unravels fascinating aspects of human cognition. Our exploration has led us through various theories, from memory glitches to fatigue-induced lapses, and even to the intriguing concept of semantic satiation. We've delved into the neurological underpinnings, observing the unusual brain activity that accompanies Jamais Vu experiences. And we've examined the reports and studies that lend credence to these theories and neurological insights. We've also touched upon common triggers like repetition and new environments that can prompt a Jamais Vu episode. Ultimately, understanding Jamais Vu not only helps decode this bizarre experience, but also offers a broader perspective on how our brains navigate the realm of recognition and familiarity. It's a testament to the intricacies of our mind, and a testament to its ability to astound us. It's a reminder that our minds are full of surprises. As we wrap up, I encourage you to continue exploring the mysteries of the mind. The human psyche is a fascinating labyrinth of thoughts, emotions, and experiences, all intertwined in a complex dance of neurons and synapses. As we've seen with Jamais Vu, even ordinary moments can become extraordinary windows into our cognitive processes, so keep digging, keep questioning, keep learning.